And we're back talking about the carbon tech sector. This is an emerging industry where entrepreneurs are finding all kinds of ways to reduce CO2 by turning it into useful products and preventing it from going into the atmosphere in the first place. Krystle, in the first couple segments, you've been critical of government policy to date. You think there's a lot of room for improvement. So I'll put the question to you: if you're elected tomorrow as part of a massive majority government and you're made the Minister of Growing the Carbon Tech Sector, what do you think needs to be done so that this sector can succeed here in Canada?
Well, as I mentioned a little earlier, we do have a federal CCUS investment tax credit that was announced in 2021. More details were given in 2022, yet more details have come now in 2023, but there's no legislative action on this. So if I was minister, I would get right to that, get some certainty in there. We have this tax credit, and it will be available to companies who put capital costs out as of January 1st of 2022, but we still don't have the pieces aligned to really see that being attractive on a large scale. So really, we need more investment, and we need more certainty around that investment. So if I was minister or leader of a task force in this area, I would be looking at how can we increase the certainty around investment for bringing in and driving up private investment. One of those things is that Canada is often referred to as being one of the most regulated countries in the world. We see that here in this sector as well. We need the regulatory certainty and finding ways to drive the delays down, the permitting down in a way that is sustainable and safe for the environment and safe for these projects. But if we're taking 4 or 7 or 10 years to approve a project like this, that's 4 or 7 or 10 years of emissions that are not being captured and stored and are still being pumped out into the atmosphere.
Well, that's interesting that government in a way is contributing to higher emissions because they can't get their act together. Just to clarify, so you're saying that they announced this tax credit a couple of years ago. Is anyone actually benefiting financially yet, or are we still waiting for all the details?
We're still waiting on details. And we do know certain pieces of it, but nothing is yet legislated.
Okay. Madison, from your perspective, working in industry, when you're chatting with your colleagues, either in meetings or around the water cooler or whatever, are there any ideas that come up that people have suggested, or maybe ones that you have too, that in ways that you think government could play a role in supporting this growing sector?
Yeah, there definitely are. I mean, we've been a recipient of many grants from both the federal level and provincial level, which has been fantastic. We definitely wouldn't be where we are today without those. I think some other opportunities for government to better support are things like test centers, pilots, procurement of carbon tech solutions. We're currently based at the Alberta Carbon Conversion Technology Centre, which is one of the world's largest operating test facilities for carbon capture and utilization. So more like that. I mean, this is the only one, and it's one of the largest. That there's more opportunity for government to support in getting, especially small startups or early stage startups, across that valley of death that we call it, and get to a growth stage where we can scale.
And is it, I asked this question to Krystle earlier, I'll ask it to you too, but when you think about some of the other players in this field, is there a path to sustainability financially so that there's no need for subsidies after, say, 2 years, 3 years? Or is it always going to be an industry where the costs are so high that you need government support in order to capture the CO2 and turn it into these products?
I think this is where we start to get into the distinction between CCUS. So the carbon capture side is very expensive. There's lots of upfront costs. The utilization piece is kind of one of the buckets that we fall into. And we believe we have to be economically viable without the use of subsidies to be an actual company and to grow and scale and have adoption of our materials. So that's really where we play into. And then same with the storage piece and the sequestration. that does need some upfront capital and can be very well supported by subsidies. So I think it depends on which area of CCUS a company falls into and how they're best supported. But from our standpoint, we do believe that a company does need to be economically viable. Their business model needs to support what they're doing in the utilization space in particular. And that's where we're seeing the subsidies just be a benefit in helping that roll forward faster.
Okay, and when we come back after the break, we're going to be chatting more about carbon tech in just a moment.